Hello, I'm Waffles the Better. This is a tutorial on how to use a resource pack to add custom item models to Minecraft Java Edition. You can add basically any item you want, and if you use them right, it feels like you're actually adding new items to the game. Combined with a data pack, you can do some really cool things with custom item models. For this video, I'll be using the tutorial pack that I made in my first resource pack video. If you don't know how to make a basic resource pack, you should watch that video. I'll link that in the description. So the first thing you'll need to do is actually find the default models for Minecraft. And you can do that by extracting the version.jar folder, as I've already done, and I showed how to do that in my other resource pack video, the first one I made. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that folder. Then just like you would for a normal resource pack, you want to go to Assets, Minecraft, and then instead of going to Textures, you want to go to Models. And then, since we're doing custom model data for items, you want to go into the Items folder. Then just like you would for a normal resource pack, you want to go back into your folder and then create the right file path. So we need to go into the Minecraft folder, then create a new folder called Models, and then in there, another one called Item. Just like how you can see here, we have Minecraft Models Item. So then you want to find the original model for the item that you want to remodel in the Minecraft item model folder. So for instance, I want to remodel a stone sword. So I'm going to scroll down all the way to S since it's in alphabetical order. So here's the stone sword.json model. So then I just want to drag this into item to copy it into here. And then basically what this does is the parent is the actual shape of the model, and this is also found in the item folder. So if I go back here and find handheld, which is somewhere in here, you can see that there's handheld.json right here. And then if I go ahead and open handheld with Notepad++, then this is the model for handheld items. So then I can close this and close Notepad, and then this part where it says layer 0 is the actual texture that the stone sword uses, and this can be found in Minecraft textures and then item. That's what this directory points to. So the next thing you need to do is to actually create the file for your custom model that you want to make for the stone sword. To do that, you can either put that in the regular item folder here, but I like to just create a new subfolder, and I'm going to name it swords, just for better organization. The original item model does need to be in the actual item folder, but you can create subfolders for your custom models. Then you can just copy the model that you want to change into your swords folder, and then you can just change this to whatever your texture is going to be called. And now it's time to actually create the texture for the item. So to create the texture, as I mentioned in the last video, I like to use Piskel, but you don't need to. You can basically use anything you want to edit the textures. So I'm just going to create a new sprite, and then you want to import the right texture. So that would be in the 1.16.5 folder, then assets, Minecraft, textures, and then item, and then stone sword, or any other texture that you want to open. And then make sure it resizes to something that is divisible by 16. And then you can just edit this texture how you want. So I've gone ahead and created this Blackstone sword texture, which is what I'm going to use for my custom model. And then I just need to export this as a PNG and download it. And then go back to my folders. And then I just need to go to textures and then item. And in here, just like in the item folder for models, I'm going to create a new folder again called swords. Then I've put my stone sword texture into the sword folder, and then I'm just going to rename it to Blackstone sword. And then I want to go back to my custom model in my sword subfolder, not just the original stone model, and I want to rename it to Blackstone sword. Blackstone sword as well. And you need to make sure that this is the one that you're using for your custom model and not for the original model, because this one needs to be renamed the same thing that the original model was called so it can override the vanilla model. So then you want to go back to your custom model, Then make sure that you change the texture directory to match the custom texture that you've already made. So that for me would be item/swords/Blackstone sword, because it's an item and then swords and then it's Blackstone sword.png. And I'm just going to make sure that I save all my files. Then just for demonstration, I've also made a deep slate sword that I'm also going to use as a custom model for the stone sword. I'm going to export that as well. Then I've brought in the model here, and I need to make sure to rename it to Deep Slate Sword and get rid of this one here, because I already had another stone sword in my downloads. And then I just want to copy this right here and paste it. So now I have Blackstone Sword copy. I'm going to rename that to Deep Slate _sword. Oops. And then make sure that this has the right texture as well. And then make sure to save all again. And the next part is where you actually make the custom models show up in-game. So you need to go back to the model for the actual item, and you want to add a comma after the curly bracket that is after the textures section. And then you want to go down here and write overrides, and then a colon, and then some square brackets. So then inside of the override square brackets, you want to make a set of curly brackets, and inside of those you want to put a space, and then predicate, and then, in quotation marks, and then a colon, and then another set of curly brackets, and in there you want to put in quotation marks custom _model _data, and then after the quotation marks, a colon. And then in here, you want to put what you want the custom model data for your item to be. So custom model data is a number that is item specific. So you could have the same custom model data number for two different types of items, like a diamond sword and a stone sword, but you can't have two of the same number for the same item. And you should make this a number that's actually specific to your pack, because it won't be compatible if you just choose the number 1 and someone who is using your pack is using a different resource pack that has the same item with a custom model data of 1. So what I like to do is to choose like 3 specific numbers for my packs. So for example, I'll make this one 483 and then 000. So then if I want to make another custom model for the same item, it could be 483001 and then 002 and 003 and so on. And you'll see that in a minute when I make a second custom model data predicate for this item. And then you want to go outside of the first curly bracket, but you're still in the second curly bracket here. And then put a comma, and then in quotation marks, model, and then a colon, and then the path to your model. So I want this to be my Blackstone sword. And as you can see, that's an item, swords, and then Blackstone _sword. So this for me would be in quotation marks, item/swords/Blackstone _sword. And then you want to make sure that you save all of your files. And then this would be all that you need to do if you only wanted to make one custom sword model. But since I have 2 custom sword models, I'm just going to go in here and copy all of this, then put a comma, and then paste it just under the first one. And you need to make sure that there is not a comma after the last one, because that will break your file. But there needs to be commas between every other one. So like if I had 3 of these, like this, there would need to be a comma after every one, but there needs to not be a comma after the last one. And then, one second, let me just bring this up to make it look neater. Then you need to change this to a different number, because you can't have 2 of the same number. So as I said before, I'm going to make it 483001 instead of 483000. And then change this to the right model, so Deep Slate Sword. And then I'm just going to save all of my files again. So this is enough to actually make it work, but one thing I want to do is to make the Deep Slate Sword really big, because I think it's boring to just have a normally sized sword. So the way to do that is to get the default tool model that I will have a link to in the description. And basically what this is I've gone into the Minecraft model files and just gotten all of the different data for the model for a tool item. This will be openable in Blockbench, which is the software I use for making Minecraft models, and I'll have a link to that in the description. So basically, what you want to do is just copy everything in here and go to the Deep Slate Sword or whatever you named your custom model, and then just basically paste all this in here, and then make sure that you change these two textures back to what it was before. So for me, that's swords / deep slate _ sword, and then I'll just copy this and paste it here. And what the particle texture is for, I forgot to mention this earlier, is if you're, for example, making like a food item or something, then that will be the particle that the game uses when you eat the food. Then this GUI light section is what tells the game how to light up the item in your inventory. So basically, if it's front, that's for 2D items, and that's like a straight on light, so like straight down on the item. And if it's side, which is for 3D items, that would create a light from the side. And then most of these are self-explanatory. Like for ground, it's how the item will appear on the ground, and head is on your head. Except for fixed, and fixed is for in item frames. And the problem with fixed here is that in Blockbench, it doesn't quite render the item the same way that Minecraft does. So it will appear like it doesn't actually exist in the item frame. That's just an error in Blockbench. It will actually work just fine in-game, and I'll show that in a minute. So then you want to go to File, and then Save All. And then I'm going to open up in Blockbench so I can make the sword really big. So I'm going to go to Open Model, and then you need to find the model in your resource pack. So for me, that's Resource Pack, Tutorial Pack, Assets, Minecraft, Models, Item, Swords, and then Deep Slate Sword. And then I'm going to open that, and here's our sword. Then I'm going to go to Display to change how it actually displays the item. And as you can see, this is how you want the player to be able to hold the sword. And you can cycle through the different ways it displays. So, for example, this is how the sword will display, and this is how it'll display if you put the item on your head. This is what it'll look like on the ground, and this is what it'll look like in item frames. And as I said, it doesn't quite work correctly in Blockbench. So it looks like it's actually invisible, but this is right. I'll show you when I put it in my game that it actually does look correct. You can also switch the example it gives for different things. So like I can switch this to show full inventory, or just my just the hotbar, or the 3x3 crafting grid. So I think we want to leave all of this the same. We just want to make the sword really big. So I'm going to set the scale to like 3.85 instead of the regular 0.85 that it already has. And then it's made the sword really big, but the problem is it's not in the right place in my hand anymore. So I can just move this up and position the sword correctly. I think that seems about good. And then I have to make sure to make it really big for the first person as well. And I'm just going to be doing the right hand because I don't play in left hand, so I won't show that as an example, because this is just an example of how you would do it. So let's see, I want to make this just really big, and you can mess around with how it's positioned. So let's see, I think I want it to look like this, and then I'll also make it really big on the ground. So I'm just adding a 3. This probably isn't the best because the scale is not quite the same for all of them, but this is just an example. So then I'll lift this up so it doesn't look like it's just going through the ground. There we go. And then just click File, and then Export, and then you want to export it as a Java block item model. And you can just export it in the same place, and it'll just replace the one you already have. So save, and then click Yes to replace. So that's it for the swords, but one thing I want to point out is when I went in here to just copy in everything from that file, I took it from the default tool model.json file, and that's only for tools. There's also the default item.json file, which is for most other regular items, because in Minecraft, if you're holding a tool, it will display it slightly differently than if you're just holding a regular item. One thing that I want to show is that you can also create custom block item models, and that is not for blocks that are actually placed in the world. It will only actually affect what the item for the block looks like in your inventory. So I'm just going to create a new folder in the item file in models called blocks, and this will hold my custom block model items. And then I have to go back to my desktop to get back to the extracted version.jar folder, and then I'm going to go to assets, Minecraft, models, item. I think I'm going to remodel how the diamond block looks. So I have to find the diamond block model, and that might take me a second. So here it is. And then again, I'm going to go back here to my resource pack and pull in the diamond block model into item. And then I'm just going to go back to my stone sword file right here and just copy the overrides. So let me just select just the overrides. I don't want to accidentally get this curly bracket. And then put a comma here and paste in the overrides. And I want to change this to a model I haven't created yet, but I'm going to call it blocks because I'm going to put it in the folder name blocks, and then happy diamond block, because if you remember in my resource pack tutorial, the texture I created for the diamond block was a happy diamond block. It had like a smiley face on it. So it's actually right here. And since I don't want the regular diamond block to look like this anymore, I'm going to just rename this to happy underscore diamond block so it doesn't overwrite the regular diamond block texture. I'm going to go to blocks and then go to my desktop because that's where I have put the default block model file. And I'm just going to pull this into blocks to copy it and rename it to happy diamond block.json. And then I just want to change all the textures to happy underscore diamond block. Then once I'm done with that, I just want to go to file and then save all. One last thing you can do is to create your own custom models that neither look like blocks or the regular 2D items in game. To do that, you want to go to file, new, Java block item, and just name this whatever you want. I'm going to name mine waffles because I'm going to be making some waffles. So then click confirm, and then you can just basically add cubes and position them around, and then go up here to rescale them to basically whatever you want, and you can create whatever you want out of them. So I'm going to go ahead and create my own waffle item model. So here's the waffle I've made. It's made up of a lot of parts, as you can see on the side, 42 in total, and that's not great for performance because the more parts you have, the more the game has to load, so it can get laggy if you have too many, but I'm not worrying about that for now. And now I need to make the texture. So I'm going to go back to Piskel and create a new sprite, and my waffle's going to be all one color for simplicity because it's a waffle, but it doesn't have to be for you. You can just create any texture you want, basically. Now, this isn't the best texture. I just made it in about a minute. This is an example, so it doesn't need to be perfect. So I'm just going to export this and put it into my textures folder, and then import a texture. I'm going to choose the waffle and then open it. Then what I'm going to do is Control A to select all of these, drag the waffle in, and then just click Apply to all faces. And what you can do is drag this around. As you can see, this is changing where the texture is on these different things, but I don't want to do that. I want to set it back to the original just so they're all the same. And the textures are kind of flickering because I have several different cubes intersecting, but I don't really care because this is just a sample of what you can do. Then you want to go up to display to change how your item looks when you're holding it. So I'll mess with that for a bit. Then I think I'm happy with all of these. I'm going to click on File and then Export as block item model. I'll just put it in item, and I'll name it waffles.json, and then save. And then I want to make sure I save the project too. and I'm going to just put it on my desktop for now. Then you can close Blockbench. So then, as you can see, the waffles.json has saved into my blocks, and the waffle.png is in items. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to desktop where I have my version.jar extracted folder and go to assets, Minecraft, models, and then item, and then I'm going to make the cookie look like a waffle. So here's the cookie model. I just want to drag that out and copy it into item. And then again, I can go back to the stone sword file and copy the overrides and then just add a comma here and paste them in. Then I'll delete this and change the model to, as you can see, it's an item and then waffles. So I'm going to change it to item/waffles. And then that should be it. Then file, save all, and then I'll just get it into my game. So I've loaded up the pack, and as you can see, if I go into my inventory and get myself a diamond block, it's now just a regular diamond block, not happy like the regular diamond. And if I get myself a stone sword, it's just a regular stone sword. But then if I do /give, waffles are better, and then diamond block, and then right after, with no space, custom model data with a capital at the beginning of each letter, and then my custom model data number was 483000. Then press enter, then I get the happy diamond block. And then, as you can see, it doesn't actually do anything. If I place it, it's just a normal diamond block, but in my inventory, it looks like the happy diamond block. It's just the same as a regular diamond block. Then if I do /give, waffles are better, stone sword, and then custom model data 483000, which is what I set the blackstone sword to have, then I get the blackstone sword. And as you can see, I'm holding it correctly in my hand, and it looks just right. It's in the right place. It's got the same model as the regular stone sword, except a different texture. However, then, if I do the same command, but do 483001, which is the custom model data I set for the deep slate sword, then I get this huge sword, because I set it to have this giant texture. It has the same proportions that I set it to in Blockbench, and if I drop it on the ground, it just floats there on the ground like I told it to. You can see that they are both just regular stone swords. One interesting thing is that since they have custom tags, items of the same kind with different custom model data will not stack, so it's like they're separate blocks. And so if I were to give myself a stone sword with the custom model data for the blackstone sword and named it blackstone sword, it would seem like it was just a completely new item. And if you combine this with data packs, you can create really cool creations that seem like you're adding completely new items to the game, even though you're just using items that already exist. And as I said, these actually do show up the right way in item frames in-game, even though Blockbench doesn't show them quite correctly. I'm going to get a cookie, and then I'll do /give, waffles are better, cookie, and then custom model data, and then 483000, which was the number that I assigned to it, and now I have the waffle item. And as you can see in my inventory, it looks like a waffle, but then if I go into first person, it has the right positioning that I set to it in Blockbench, and if I eat it, the particles are correct as well, and I can eat it since it is a cookie. And that's because anything you set to have custom model data will still actually be the same original item, so it'll have the same behaviors as the original item. So like, for example, since I've set it to a cookie, I can eat it, and if I had set it to a bow, I'd be able to shoot from it. So basically, you can create any item you want with this. That's it for this video. If you have any questions about what I've covered in this video, you can ask me in the comments, and if you have any suggestions for anything you want me to cover in the future, you can tell me those in the comments as well, because I want to make content that people actually want to see and that's actually helpful to them. So if there's something I can do to help you, just let me know. If you liked this video or found it helpful, feel free to subscribe, because I'll be doing more things like this in the future, and I'm planning on making a video on how to use this with a data pack to create custom blocks. So if you find that interesting, you can watch that when it comes out. Thanks for watching.